Hello, this is Edith Newmeyer, and I'm the author of The Mystery of Adam. Today I want to go back to the creation of the man and the woman in two distinct forms. In other words, the split of the human being. Now we have learned that the first human being was a man and a woman in one, and that God didn't just take the rib, but he took the whole side of the human being. And after he took the side, he closed the opening, and the man was created, or not created, but formed. And then he adds the finishing touch to the side he took, and that was the woman. So right after God did that, he said, and I'm going to quote this time from Matthew, because I'm going to talk about what Jesus's comments were on that section. It is Matthew 19:5. It says, "For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to the wife, and the two shall become one flesh." Now Jesus quoted that. Now the reason why Jesus brought this up was because he was questioned by the Pharisees about divorce. And so before he even addresses the problem of divorce, he addressed how God created the first human being and the reason why God really does not like divorce. So let's start with the whole section. The whole section starts in verse 4. And he says, "Have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female?" Okay? So God made the human being male and female. Not a man and then, his little helper, but he made the man of male and female. They were equal partners, as I have said before. And then he continues in 5, and he said, "For this cause a man shall leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." Okay? Here is the important phrase, one flesh. They shall become one flesh because this verse refers to what happened prior to this. The man and the woman were separated. Therefore, if the man leaves father and mother and cleaves to his wife, they become one flesh again, just like in the beginning. That's what God's intention was. He wanted the man and the woman again joined to become this one flesh unit. Now, this is not just flesh. I think if you probably look at the translations, that may be more than just flesh. Sorry, I think I'm getting a cough or something. Anyways, so it also refers to the emotional bond they have and the spiritual bond. Now, of course, we know that this emotional and spiritual and this flesh they were separated, not just by the flesh, but also after the fall, they were separated emotionally and spiritually. And so this is very hard. And this is why Moses said, or this is why Moses gave the Jews the right to divorce. Because he said, because of the fall, and Jesus referred to it as the hardness of heart. The hardness of heart is something that happened after the fall. He said, and that was in verse 8. He says, Moses gave them the right to, or permitted, divorce because of the hardness of the heart, which is sin. Sin enters and we become selfish. And so that's why Moses, permitted it. So Jesus, though, refers back to the beginning, and he says, no, God's intention was for them to be one. And when you say one, when you look at that, this is not one-sided. Matter of fact, this is very important to look at, because we can see that our culture, way from the beginning of the fall, totally changed this instructions. Yeah, if you want to say instructions from God. Here God says, the man shall leave father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Now, what has our culture done? Most of the cultures, if you can go back, are patriarchy. So, in a patriarchy, who leaves and cleaves? It is the woman that is expected to leave her parents and cleave to her husband, and that is exactly against God's commandment. But what are we doing? We're doing it. Okay, it's real strange. Why are we doing that? Why are we not seeing this? Why are we not seeing? Why are the people that think that the man should be in charge, why are they not seeing that the man really needs to leave, and the man is supposed to leave and cleave, not the woman? Okay, leave and cleave. Cleave also means that you're supposed to be following the other person. Well, I don't know why we came up with patriarchy, but that's what culture did, and God predicted it. He said the man will rule over the woman, and so therefore, what God's intention was didn't come about, did not come about. The woman had to cleave to the husband, had to leave father and mother and stay with the clan of the husband. That's how most cultures work, and that is not God's intention, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, but Jesus points that out too. I don't know. I think Jesus knows exactly what he said. And so, but again, during Jesus' time, the reason why they brought this up, this divorce question, is because during Jesus' time they had two groups. One group believed that, or one law system, court system believed that a man can send away his wife for any reason. And I'm not talking about divorce, because Moses said in 8, he says, actually it says in 7, it says Moses commanded them, or he permitted them to give the woman a divorce paper and then send her away. However, this group believed that you can send your wife away for just anything without a divorce paper. For burning breakfast, for instance. Just any reason. And then the other group believed, no, you have to have a reason. And I believe even they believe that you have to give your wife divorce papers. Now, Jesus agreed with that group. He says, and I say to you, whosoever divorces his wife except for immorality and marries another woman commits adultery. Now, he says, he uses, or they translated the word, actually I can't pronounce the word, apolelumenonen, it's kind of hard to pronounce. I don't know how to speak Greek. So anyway, the original word really meant unjustifiably dismissed. That's what the original word meant. And somebody translated it as divorce. But really, when we think about a divorce, we think about legal divorces where the wife or the husband gets legal papers. And in this case, though, that one group didn't believe that. But he says, well, guess what? If you think you're causing your wife to be accused of committing adultery because you don't want to give her a divorce paper, well, I have good news or I have bad news for you. If you do that, you also, the man who sends his wife away without a divorce paper, can also accused of committing adultery because that person cannot prove that he sent his wife a wife legally. So he's reversing, Jesus is reversing this belief, but he also upholds the equality that men and women have in front of the law of Moses. Because in front of the law of Moses, both can divorce their spouse if they break any of the vows. Yes, the man and the woman. However, during Jesus' time, that was very seldom the case because women were subordinate and the women's were not full, equal, really members of the society, the Jewish society. But Jesus points out right there again that, wait a minute, and he does that in other sections as well. He says men and women have equal rights in front of the law of Moses. So he gives the Pharisees even more reasons to put him to death. So I think this is a very interesting section, and I saw in that Jesus even supports the fact that in the beginning God created a man and a woman. Okay, he doesn't come out and says, oh, God created the man first. No, there's always a combination, man and woman. And again, my goodness, okay, keep that in mind. God commanded or instructed the first man to leave father and mother and cleave to his wife. That is not happening. That is not happening. I think that was revolutionary as well. I don't know if the Pharisees even picked up on that. I mean, it took me a long time to pick up on that fact that Jesus, used that verse to maybe show the Pharisees that, hey, wait a minute here. Who is supposed to be leaving and cleaving? It's the man and not the woman. And maybe also kind of pointing out that, what has happened to culture? Because of the fall, all of a sudden, the man became dominant and didn't consider his wife an equal partner. So I'm going to leave it at that today. And I'm encouraging you to continue to study the section some more. If any of you, are better in Greek than I am, I'm just looking it up in my Bible, and I just discovered that it was a false translation, which so many of the words are. I said from the beginning that rib, that translation, the original word is sella, and it should not be translated as rib. It should be translated as side. So there's many words that were falsely translated. I just saw recently an interview with a guy who believes, and I'm not going to mention his name, but who believes that the King James is, the original word of God, and all the other translations have mistakes in it. And I'm telling him right now, or tell anybody, who believes that the King James is the translation is wrong. I have used the King James for many years, and the same words are mistranslated. The King James doesn't say anything else. It uses the same thing. It uses rib. It doesn't use side, and it should be side. The same thing with, I think I brought the word Adam up. Adam should be human being. It shouldn't be translated as man. Because when we translate as man, even though we can say man as like in mankind, we jump to the conclusion that when we hear the word man, that it is a male being. So it would have been better to translate it as human being, because that would be the correct translation. So even though after the fall, yes, it became obvious that the first man, the first male, kept the name Adam for himself. But in the beginning, when God created them, he called them both Adam, or human being. So yeah, please look for these mistakes, because yeah, you believe that the Bible is God's word, but there are many, many mistakes in the Bible, and very many false translations that have shaped our culture the way it is, our beliefs, our false beliefs about, for instance, divorce. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and my goodness, I was always told it's false. I mean, it's wrong to divorce. God did not like divorce. There's a difference whether God likes it or not. But God made provision under the law of Moses that we can divorce. He knows that we are fallen creatures, and therefore you know what? We have a hard time living godly lives. And so, if I get married to somebody and that person decides to not fulfill the marriage vows, and that he is not honoring me, that he is doesn't love me, that he doesn't provide certain things, he in a sense abandons me, then yeah, under the law of Moses, I have the right to divorce that person. Now, we don't have the right, as Jesus says, just to divorce that person for just any reason. No, that's not the case. It has to be all, decent, and we are forgiving as Christians, but there are some things you can't forgive. Sometimes you have to stick with your Christian values and say, well, I can't live with you anymore. Or that other person has to say, wait a minute, maybe it just doesn't work out. And we shouldn't be feeling guilty about these things, or feel like we have to be stuck in bondage with a person that's abusive, because it's all bondage. The person that tells us that is Satan. It's not God. God is not saying, oh, you bad, 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 you got a divorce and you're just so awful and you're not a Christian anymore. That's not true. It is Satan telling us that. Okay? When I have an unbeliever and I have to live with an unbeliever, and that unbeliever is not wants to make adjustments to my beliefs, then it's very hard to live a Christian life when that other person does that. So don't feel sad and bad when you do that. Study the Word and realize that some of the translations are just really wrong. All right, I'm going to finish at that. And next time I will probably continue a little more with male dominance, and also how women kind of supported male dominance. So anyways, see